Oh, wow, I'm still talking about this movie. But there's just so much to talk about. Like Jinu. Is he a bad person? Jinu is the main antagonist of Kpop Demon Hunters. Kind of. Gwi-Ma is the main problem. He's the one the girls are always worried about. He's the one who makes demons steal souls on the threat that he would consume them if they fail. He's the reason Jinu is in a position to do what he does. He is the big bad. But he was losing. He couldn't do anything. The beginning of the movie is the girls absolutely styling on what the other demons considered a smart plan to take them out. By the way, these plain demons not knowing how to act is the best argument for the idea that some demons have never been human, even though they know how to somehow fly a plane. Anyway, Huntrix was winning, and then Jinu showed up. It was his idea to go for the fans. He's the one who put the Saja Boys together. Gwi-Ma is supervising to make sure that Jinu doesn't fall for Rumi's whole I can fix him scheme, but Jinu and Rumi are the most active characters, and the ones making the plot happen. So when talking about the main villain of this movie, it's Gwi-Ma, but Jinu's the one doing everything. He even has his own motivations for why he's doing it, and as far as we can tell, the other demons don't seem to share it. Seriously, the other demon characters are the most underwritten part of this movie, and my biggest fear with the sequel is that it will make it clear that this movie didn't think the demons through as a whole. But with all that being said, and Jinu's sacrifice to protect Rumi from Gwi-Ma in mind, I do find myself wondering, did Jinu truly redeem himself? How bad a person was he? Rumi doesn't seem to think he's like a completely horrible person, but I'm not one to let a story tell me what to think about it, so here we are. The thing about Jinu is that there are two different versions of him to consider when asking if he was a bad person. Jinu the human and Jinu the demon. Because there are 400 years of self-hatred separating these two characters and the decisions they made. So, let's start with Jinu the human. Now, here's the thing, I don't think human Jinu was a bad person. Which seems like it might be a bit of a hot take considering how many people I've seen talk about his actions as a confirmation that he deserves his fate. But I believe it's not really presented that way. Let's really look at human Jinu's situation. Considering the Korea-centric nature of this movie, my research tells me he lived in the mid to late Joseon era, right after Japan invaded in a time of political upheaval. Depending on how literally we want to take the statement of him having died around 400 years ago, the monarch of Korea was either Gwang Hae-gun of Joseon, who seems to be a kind of controversial ruler who helped modernize Korea, but was considered less than politically optimal because he was the son of a concubine, or, to take it more literally, Injo of Joseon, who took over via coup, kind of as a puppet of the real coup leaders, and was considered a weak ruler of a corrupt and ineffective government, leading to another rebellion from Yi Gwal, one of the people who deposed Gwang Hae-gun in the first place. Injo recovered from this, but it led to Korea getting hit financially, setting back the progress Gwang Hae-gun had made. I gotta admit, it's kind of funny to consider that regardless of your answer for when exactly he died, Jinu might have died as a result of a coup caused by Yi Gwal being a dick. I'm sorry, I appear to have slipped and fallen into a rabbit hole of Korean history. Back to the musician. Jinu's family was poor in a country that wasn't exactly doing great as a whole. All he could do was busk for cash. I looked that word up to make sure I was using it properly, and Google auto-filled Korea for me, so I guess that's kind of a tradition there. So when the devil whispered in his ear that he could get them out of that situation, you can imagine why he jumped at the idea. But that's the crucial word. Them. As in, all of them. As in, when he made his deal with Gwi-Ma, he was thinking about his family. He brought them to the palace by hand, only for the guards to point spears at them because they weren't invited. Now, at this point, I would be remiss to not point out something a lot of people have been saying. At that time in Korea, you couldn't really say no to the king. Injo, who I think was the king at the time, probably wouldn't have taken kindly to his new musician turning around and leaving at the palace gates. Jinu might not have had that much of a choice on whether or not he could leave. Now, this isn't an invalid read of the situation, even if deep in my soul it feels like coping over wanting to like your problematic fave. Ultimately though, it doesn't really matter. To Jinu, he made the choice to let go of his sister's hand, and that's all that sticks with him at that moment. Maybe there's more to his backstory, like an unseen threat that made him let go, but I think the narrative better supports the idea that right there, on the doorstep to success, he let go, and that's all he really thinks about. He got to live in a palace, wanting for nothing, with the favor of the king. He went from poverty to affluence, and he enjoyed it. How could he not? He was only human. But his family was left alone to die. And without him, if he wasn't allowed to send them money, it probably happened even faster. This put Jinu in a position where he could enjoy himself, but also couldn't forget what happened. The clip of him enjoying himself doesn't even last 5 seconds before we're shown that he's still thinking about what he did. Whether or not he had a choice, it doesn't really matter. He got to be full and his family starved, and that's all he really thinks about. Jinu referred to his marks as his shame. It's not guilt for his crimes that keep him down, it's shame for their results. Consider how he describes what happened. He says he made a deal with Gwi-Ma just for himself. But he didn't know it was for himself. He thought it was for his family. It's only after the fact that he realized the truth. But that doesn't matter in the face of what happened in the end. And to this day, it's the thing that causes him the most misery. I think it's likely that if he had been told ahead of time that he'd have to abandon his family, he probably might not have. Or maybe that's just me wanting to like my problematic fave.
You can't do anything for your family. You're not good enough for them. But I can help you be good enough.
I believe Jinu died exactly 400 years ago over being born 400 years ago, because Gwi-Ma says he's never done anything that didn't serve himself in all the time they've known each other. But at best, that assessment only really starts from when they met. And when Jinu was out begging for money, he was definitely also doing that for his family. Otherwise, he'd probably have left them earlier. I don't think human Jinu was a bad person. He did one bad thing to save himself from misery, but the guilt pretty much destroyed him, and then condemned him to hell, or the Korean equivalent. Demon Jinu, on the other hand, is a different story. One thing I think is worth bringing up is Gwi-Ma's manipulations. He manipulated Jinu into abandoning his family, and while he never takes physical control of Jinu, we know he is constantly in the ear of demons, tormenting them with their worst memories, affirming that they deserve what's happening to them.
You left them behind, failed them.
For 400 years, he's been hearing Gwi-Ma tell him that he abandoned his family to suffer and die. And after all that time, he would do anything to be free of that, even forget that past. Gwi-Ma's manipulation of Jinu is a lot subtler and a lot like investing. Water this tree with 400 years of torment and it'll come back and basically defeat the demon hunters for you. I said that Gwi-Ma's role is supervising Jinu's actions, and that's part of it. He reminds Jinu of his past because he can tell that Rumi is actually getting through to him and he's not letting his best investment go to waste. He needs Jinu to remain desperate and miserable. Though, if anything, Jinu's sacrifice at the end shows that he wasn't tortured enough. Here's the thing, 21st century Jinu is a bad person. He's entirely motivated by a desire to be free from his own pain and knowingly helps Gwi-Ma consume hundreds of souls in order to get that. He's tragic, but he still does horrible things and gets people probably killed. Probably? Sorry, it's just having their bodies disappear makes me question how dead these people really are. The best you could say about Jinu is that anyone would be as bad as him in the same situation, but that doesn't make what he was doing in the present day any less bad. Both versions of Jinu are motivated by a desire to be free from a horrible situation, but so many things separate them. Jinu wasn't only thinking about himself 400 years ago, and he didn't think his actions would hurt anyone when he started. But in the 21st century, fully believing he doesn't deserve anything good, he embraces being a selfish person. He betrays Rumi, even knowing he's going to regret it, because he's convinced that that's all he's good for, betraying those he loves. Because he keeps getting reminded of just his mistakes. And so he wants to run from them, even if he hurts others to do so. He did not have to protect Rumi's secrets when he did, but he empathized with her. He only goes through with betraying her after being reminded of what he's trying to forget. But that doesn't make his betrayal any less bad. I don't think Jinu was a bad person back in the Joseon era, but it's clearly let his perception of himself and his desperation to be free of torment shape who he was, and thus he has become that perception. If they really are gonna bring this guy back, I honestly think his redemption has really only just gotten started. I've already given my suggestion as to what I think could be done with him, so it's really a matter of what the writers think. Shout out to my patrons, A and Skyman. What do you think of both Jinus? Are they bad people, tragic, or both? Tell me in the comments below, and while you're at it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more. Thank you, and good day.